Yep, it's Jason. I guess Zack and Trini are still stuck at the Peace Conference. Jason is given the Gold Ranger powers and comes in to help the Rangers fight a monster imbued with the Neoplutonium armor. Before they can call the Zords to fight it, Billy teleports them back. His analysis indicates that the monster is far too powerful and that it'd likely just destroy the Zeo Zords. However, before Trey leaves for Triforia, he reveals that the Triforians were the keepers of the last components of the Zeo powers, the Super Zeo Gems. This allows them to call forth the Super Zeo Zords, more powerful than the previous ones. Mondo calls forth a larger force of Neoplutonium-enhanced monsters, and the Rangers engage them in combat, managing to blast them apart. So yeah, Jason's back for the rest of the season. King Mondo, however, is really pissed at all of this and decides to take drastic action. He uncovers a powerful mystic sword that he had used in another conflict, hoping to use its power to finally destroy the Rangers. However, the sword is apparently too powerful, and the reason he stopped using it was that it ultimately destroyed him last time. Yes, it seems the Machine Empire is virtually indestructible, since even if you destroy their leaders, they'll simply be rebuilt. Meanwhile, Rito and Goldar arrive back on the moon and are picked up by Rita and Zed. In a camper. I'm guessing that this is more where the idea of Zed being made completely domesticated came from, since the original villains have basically been reduced to comic relief. However, despite that, they still remain more interesting characters. Much like how Bulk and Skull can save an episode, Zed and Rita working on ways to restore their empire or just dealing with their RV remain more interesting than the Rangers themselves. The Rangers form the Super Zeo Megazord and destroy Mondo, leaving a temporary power vacuum. Rita and Zed have Goldar and Rito launch a missile towards the machine moon base, but due to their incompetence, they lose control of it, and it transforms into a monster called Louie Kaboom. Louie Kaboom takes control of the Empire, somehow, it's not clear, where he remains in power for a few episodes. However, much to the gratitude of Queen Machina, King Mondo's older son Gasket arrives with his wife Archerina. Archerina was the daughter of one of Mondo's rivals, and he disowned them, creating Sprocket as his replacement. The two swiftly deal with Louie Kaboom and work to destroy the Power Rangers before Mondo's return. At the same time, there's a subplot brewing with Jason dating this former biker woman. It really doesn't go anywhere, but it's something to mention. One of the things to note is that despite Jason holding the Gold Ranger powers, he clearly isn't as strong as Trey. The reasons for this are actually pretty obvious. For starters, Jason's out of practice. It's been 2 years since he was a Ranger, and these are entirely new powers. Trey had years of practice as the Gold Ranger, while Jason had to adjust to them. Plus, they were designed for someone with an entirely different physiology, a problem that will become more apparent when we reach the end of the season. Another person joining the good guys is Arek the Conqueror, kind of an ancient Ninjor-esque individual who they'd call to their aid on occasion, and will never be mentioned again after Zeo. Seriously, he just entirely disappears after his last appearance and is not brought up once. Really, the problem with Arek is the problem with Tanya. In his introduction episode, The Lore of Arek, she receives a letter.
It's from Aisha.
Oh geez, is Tanya getting a Dear John letter too? Actually, it's stuff from Tanya's parents, a map and a key to activate Arek. They had been missing for years, archaeologists searching ancient tombs for the tiki of Arek when their plane had gone down. It looked pretty good for people who have been stranded for years on a mysterious island. I don't know, just seems to me that my priority would be getting a signal fire up, not exploring caves for tikis. Plus, this begs the question of how Aisha got this stuff. She says it was from another woman they met during Aisha's Zeo quest, but how did she get it? The big question with Tanya is basically that once she came here, she essentially took over Aisha's life as if nothing had happened, becoming friends with the same people, living with Kat as Aisha had done, even though originally that was Kimberly staying with Aisha because of her parents, except Aisha's family somehow transferred over when the space-time continuum got food poisoning. Bah! Time travel in Power Rangers never makes sense. Back on the story side of things, Tommy is kidnapped by Gasket and brainwashed into believing that he's the king of the Machine Empire. From there, they lure the Rangers into a trap, bringing them to a gladiatorial arena in another dimension. Well, actually, they get some unexpected help from Rita and Zed, who teleport them to Tommy's location. Why? Well, because of a revelation that the villains have.
You fool! We'll have nothing!
After all those years of work, we'll still be stuck on this rock while those machines take over our planet!
They eventually restore Tommy's memory with the power of friendship and all that. It's not a bad two-parter, but it's fairly simple. What bolsters the episode up is Bulk and Skull, who also get accidentally transported to the dimension. They join forces with a half-lizard gladiator and help him destroy the force field around the dimension and free the Rangers. I'll get into it a bit more when we discuss Bulk and Skull for this season. At the end of a delightful episode called Another Song and Dance, which features not only a full-scale attack by the Machine Empire, but also Tommy and Tanya having to sing all their lines.
Are you alright?
Do not make light! I've had a fright! Why can I not stop groaning?
It's those machines, they have the means.
King Mondo returns. The ending storylines of the season begin with Rangers of Two Worlds. The Rangers return to the power chamber to discover Billy, heavily aged and played by an entirely different actor. Sadly, David Yost had left the series. When I produced the original version of this video, there was no official reason given, just rumors about a pay dispute. Thanks to a 2010 interview, he finally explained his reason. Yost is gay and was harassed by many of the production crew over this. Scott Page Pagter, a producer of the show, has said that it was still a pay dispute, but honestly, I am very much inclined to believe Yost on this, especially because of the virtual silence about it until the interview, and, well, let's face it, the mid-90s were not exactly known for being the kindest to LGBT individuals. Basically, he just walked off the set one day and never looked back. In story, though, there still needed to be a proper send-off to Billy's character, even without the actor present. The actor playing old Billy really doesn't get any of his mannerisms or inflections down, sadly, but I can't imagine he had that much time to prepare. The rapid aging was a result of the device he used to restore him to his proper age during the Alien Ranger saga. It had this delayed side effect. Not surprising that something like this would happen, since the entire space-time continuum was trying not to drown during that whole thing, and an element like Billy aging back to normal while everything else was still in the past probably didn't help. Meanwhile, with Mondo back, Gasket and Archerina retreat to their own planet for the time being. Over with the Camper of Evil, Finster has created a new magic staff for Rita to make monsters. They decide to test it out on Catherine. Pretty damn good plan, all things considered. However, due to a minor targeting error, they hit Catherine's ugly purse instead, transforming that into a monster. Of course, they never bother to just shoot at Catherine again, because, you know, that would make sense. The Rangers call in the Equations for help with Billy, reconstructing the regenerator in the hopes that it can restore him to his proper age. However, it backfires and damages the teleportation system. Mondo, not wanting to be outdone by Rita and Zed, sends out his own monster to destroy Angel Grove. Equally not wanting to be outdone by Mondo's monster, Rita and Zed make their purse monster grow. The purse monster, shockingly, is possibly Rita and Zed's most powerful monster. Physical attacks are useless, and it simply reflects energy attacks back at the Rangers. Damn, Rita's new staff is friggin' awesome. Hope she doesn't throw it down to make another monster grow. I think the warranty ran out on those back in Season 2. Mondo's monster, in turn, has the ability to take over other mechanical objects, and takes over the Zeo Megazord. The Rangers are forced to retreat when the Zeo Ultrazord is useless, and they try the regenerator again. It helps a little, but ultimately isn't enough. Mondo, pissed off about the purse monster, sends it to another planet. Because he can just do that, and has never tried that with anything else. Billy detects the sabotage in the Zeo Megazord and goes in to try to repair it, but the Megazord lifts off with him inside of it. With the teleporter down, they can't get him out, and they send out the Super Zeo Megazord to try to get its compatriot under control. While they can't stabilize the Megazord, they do manage to fix the teleporter and get Billy out. Mondo's monster assumes control of the Zeo Megazord and fights the Rangers. Finster manages to locate the purse monster and sends it back to the Rangers, putting it right into the Super Zeo Megazord and commandeering it. This isn't quite as surreal as Master Vile's little party, but it's up there. Two monsters from opposing evil factions are fighting each other using the Rangers' Zords. Wow! Meanwhile, the Equations bring water from their version of the Fountain of Youth to try to restore Billy. The Rangers, in the meantime, trick the purse monster out of the Super Zeo Megazord. Kat and Tanya enter the Zeo Megazord and destroy the thing that was controlling it. The water helps Billy a little, but it's not enough. They decide to send him to Aquitar for stronger doses. Mondo deploys a large battalion of cogs to Angel Grove, and we finally get the reason for our title. The Zeo Rangers combine forces with the Equation Rangers, and it is awesome. What's really great about this is that there's an actual Sentai team-up between the two series. The only disappointing thing about this is that their combined footage is far too short. The Rangers receive a transmission from Aquitar to let them know that Billy is back to his regular age. They use stock footage of him visually, but of course hire someone who sounds absolutely nothing like him, as per tradition.
Guys, I've made a really important decision. I'll miss you all.
He says he's going to stay behind because he's fallen for one of the Equations, meaning that he's finally found a permanent love interest after the 500 previous ones.
We're gonna miss you, man.
He's so happy, he's speechless.
The episode ends with a montage of Billy's moments from the series. Admittedly, a better send-off than Aisha got, but not up to par with Kimberly. And with Billy leaving, the last of the original 5 has gone. Yeah, I suppose having Jason around might count, but he was gone for so long, and when this season concludes, we'll be saying farewell to him too. Hawaii Zeo opens with Gaskin and Archerina returning and attacking the Rangers, attempting to take the Gold Ranger powers from Jason. Jason's having a hard time too, getting severely weakened. While the Rangers retreat, Sprocket tells Gasket that instead of trying to send a monster, that he should just make himself grow and fight the Rangers. It's apparently actually a clever ruse to get rid of Gasket. Alpha and Zordon examine Jason, but can't find anything wrong with his powers. The Rangers fight Gaskin and Archerina and manage to defeat them. The two villains finally retreat for good when Mondo shows up. While we never see them again, given what'll happen in a few seasons, it's entirely possible they're still out there. The season ends with good as gold. Jason's on the run from the cogs and his powers are constantly in flux. However, he's also intercepted by Rita, Zed, and a squad of Tengas. Like the Machine Empire, they're after the Gold Ranger powers. Mondo and the rest of the royal family arrive, deciding to have an argument with Rita and Zed. Rita tells Mondo that they aren't frightened of the Empire anymore, that they've become an intergalactic joke, and it's hard not to see why. Like Rita and Zed, they failed every attempt to destroy the Rangers. Hell, Rita and Zed actually did defeat the Rangers on several occasions, whereas the Zeo Rangers have just gotten more powerful. There have been some near misses, but the Machine Empire has scored no actual victories over the Rangers. Jason manages to slip away while the Tengas and Cogs battle. It's actually a pretty damn brutal fight, much more so than usually shown on this show, with the Tengas getting wailed on and feathers pulled, while some of the Cogs get disemboweled. Jason's communicator is also failing to work, so he can't call for help. He arrives at the juice bar exhausted, and the Rangers bring him back to the command center to run tests. Their fears are confirmed. Jason's body is rejecting the Gold Ranger powers, and they need to be returned to Trey. However, Trey is still split into his 3 forms. He travels to Earth anyway to try to help. Mondo demands that Rita and Zed leave, and Zed suddenly and surprisingly acquiesces to their demand. In private, he tells the others that he has a plan. The Rangers work on a ceremony to restore Trey to normal and transfer the Gold Ranger powers back to him. While they're off doing that, Bulk and Skull lament how Detective Stone doesn't seem to want to give them a real case, but are then contacted by a French secret agent, wanting to hire the two for undercover work in France. They quit their job with Detective Stone, who, while at first is angry with them, privately looks sad that they're leaving. The ceremony, despite being interrupted by Mondo and the Cogs, goes off without a hitch and Trey is restored. Mondo and the Cogs grow, and the Rangers at first decide to call their Zords, but Trey says that there isn't enough time, instead making the Rangers themselves grow. This is admittedly not the most impressive fight, but it's still pretty damn cool. The only time where the Rangers themselves grow and fight. What's especially important is that Tommy once again fights King Mondo. However, this time it goes differently. Recall that the last time they fought, Mondo wiped the floor with him. The Zeo Crystal is supposed to continually grow in power over time, meaning that the Rangers are always growing more powerful. Thus, with the great symbolism of Mondo's mechanical crown falling off, the Machine King and his empire are once again defeated. However, it isn't the Rangers who ultimately drive the Machine Empire away. Rita and Zed, in a peace offering, give Sprocket a gift as the villains drive off in the camper of evil. When Sprocket opens the gift, a bomb goes off, blowing up the entire royal family.
We're back!
Admittedly, Mondo's head keeps on talking after they've been blown up, saying they haven't seen the last of the Machine Empire, But frankly, with no one in charge of the Empire to rebuild them, it's obvious that it'll take them quite a while to reassemble and be a threat again. They might even need the resources of the United Alliance of Evil. And so the season comes to its conclusion with a callback of Tommy giving a pep talk to Jason because of the loss of his powers, much like what had happened to him beforehand. And besides, Jason's still got a girlfriend, whereas Tommy has his moronic Dear John letter and the forced romance with Kat that never goes anywhere, so what was even the point? Assisting the transition from Mighty Morphin to Zeo was the music. As I said before, the addition of the chorus gave a larger sense of majesty to the team, while at the same time evoking the mysticism that comes with the Zeo Crystal. Speaking of which, I love the Zeo theme song. It's basically a sequel song to Go Go Power Rangers, even containing a bit of the original theme within it. While the fight music wasn't quite as good as the previous seasons, it's still pretty enjoyable and continues the rock music that was such a strength in Mighty Morphin. With the chorus in there too, it's kinda got a Queen or ELO feeling to it, like it's a rock opera. I'd like to think that the switch to Zeo was a cost-cutting measure. While the Zords were being replaced every season, as long as they were using the Season 1 costumes, they had to shoot new footage every time we saw them. Over the course of the previous 3 seasons, the stories began to rely increasingly less on Sentai footage, and it probably was a pain in the neck for the accountants of the show. Once Zeo came in, the fights, both in Ranger form and in the Zords, could once again be Sentai footage. And since I doubt the changeover to Zeo actually hurt them that badly, it probably contributed to switching out powers and the show title every season, as long as they kept the brand name of Power Rangers. The Machine Empire as villains never quite did it for me. While they had a very strong start with their introduction, they never quite captured the idea of being a huge invading force from beyond the stars that could be a legitimate threat to the Rangers and the Earth. It might have helped if we saw them launch more large-scale attacks instead of just the occasional monsters and cogs. There were times where we saw them utilizing more resources, but never quite to the degree it feels they should have. They also never quite had the charm of Rita and Zed either, though that might have just been growing pains since we had just lost the two. As I mentioned last time, it was very rare to see the Rangers go head-to-head with the main villain of the early seasons, with it only really occurring with Zed once. Here we have a few direct confrontations, with the fight between Mondo and Tommy, well, being less of a fight and more a curb stomp as Mondo just slaps him aside. Then there was the Damocles sword encounter, which resulted in Mondo's destruction. And finally, a battle where Tommy and Trey were able to punch him out. The important thing to stress is just that the leader earns their reputation as formidable just by how much it took to take them down. And with the Zeo powers continually getting stronger, it shows just how powerful the Rangers had become at the end. Bulk and Skull's development this season is both good and bad. The bad parts of it are them taking in Goldar and Rito as servants. Don't get me wrong, it's funny as hell, especially seeing them in a position where they have power over the monsters they've always been afraid of, but the fact that they're acting like assholes to two beings that are in a spot just makes them come off like dicks. Of course, Goldar and Rito do get their revenge every once in a while, and it's nice to see the consequences of their behavior to the two later. However, the brighter sides of their nature do get to shine through quite a bit this season. For example, we learn in one episode that Skull is actually a classically trained piano player, and a damn good one.
I don't want anybody to laugh at me.
They won't laugh. They'll respect you.
Well, what about Bulk?
If he's really your friend, he'll be proud of what you can do.
And while Bulk initially mocked classical music as being for dweebs, when he discovers Skull plays it, he suddenly finds it awesome, showing that even though at times Skull can be an idiot and Bulk an overlording jackass, they're still friends and not quite as one-dimensional as one might think. What's more, during a psychological evaluation as part of the junior police, we learn that they are obsessed with monsters, constantly in fear of them. In any other city, this would make them unfit to be cops, but in Angel Grove, it's an asset. We see their better angels again when they quit the junior police to support Lieutenant Stone. Sure, they're afraid of the guy and probably would prefer to be left to their own devices, but you also get the impression that they have tremendous respect for the man. Also, while remaining fairly cowardly during the season towards monsters and whatnot, even while being held in the other dimension, we do see that actually their bumbling nature still helps them out. They're still fast enough to dodge cog attacks and fight back, and in fact, their Three Stooges-esque battle tactics seem a lot more effective at times than the Power Rangers using karate. I'd imagine it's because the cogs, as machines, are designed to fight against certain fighting techniques, but not quite as well programmed against comic relief fighting. So yeah, Zeo didn't advance the two much more, but there was plenty of humor to be found, and they continue to be friendlier towards the teens instead of bullies. If Zeo's overall theme had to be summed up in a single word, it would be triumph. Back when the Zeo Crystal was first introduced, it was suggested that over time its power continually increased, and I'd say that's pretty evident by the end of the series. The Rangers could hold their own against the Machine Empire even without the use of a Zord, and their arsenal would just continue to grow larger. If the Machine Empire had stuck around, the Rangers would have probably eventually just have forced them into retreat anyway. What's interesting about this season is that we've had a complete reversal of magic versus technology. The Zeo Crystal, a mystical object, is now the power source for the Rangers, while the forces of technology and machines are now coming to fight the Rangers. Admittedly, it's downplayed due to the fact that with Billy around, they still were creating technological wonders to fight the Machine Empire. Instead, one could say that the Rangers represented a mix of technology and magic. The mystical powers of the crystal were complemented by technology, and as I said before, the circuitry look of the details on the Zeo suits allude to that. Instead, the magic side of things was represented by Rita and Zed. They were the old guards, the past villains who represented older ways and superstitions who had lost their power as time moved on and progress advanced. Anytime the two tried to use technology to fight the Empire, it backfired on them. However, when Rita got her new magic staff, she created a monster far more effective than most of Mondo's machines. The Rangers, however, were the compromise between technology and magic, and were able to fight off both forces. Then again, I could just be talking out of my ass with this. It's just how I saw it. Power Rangers Zeo showed the team at their strongest. A wide array of weapons, power levels ever increasing, and their enemies were getting easier to defeat. Writing-wise, it honored the history of the team while also building on their new premise to advance further. However, after 4 years, it was time for the team to graduate from the 5 teenagers with attitude premise and take the next step into greatness. A pity, though, that the next season meandered through that concept when they shifted into Turbo.
We are the bravest and most powerful warriors on our planet.
Excellent. Then you can help me in my plans to escape from here and foil Prince Casket.
Us?
Us?
And with the help of Triter the alien, we saved the Power Rangers.
Yeah, and now we're legends on the planet of Horath.